What's going on, everybody? How you all doing today? I'm Jay. Welcome back to the PFRedux podcast here on a live stream on the YouTube channel Ono Coffee. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Jay, and as you know, what we're doing in this series is that back in 2005, one of my good friends, Nick Cho, and I, you might know him from Your Korean Dad fame today, him and I started a podcast called the Portafilter.net podcast, which ran from 2005 to 2008, and we covered all kinds of information in the coffee business and the industry overall, and the craft of being a barista as well. And, you know, that's what we did. And it was the very first and largest coffee podcast on the internet at the time, from 2005 to 2008. And I thought we'd come back and revisit some of the episodes and see what has changed and what is the same 15 years later. And that's what this whole series is about. So thanks for joining me. Now, just to get things off the way, there is no companies paying for this video. It's not sponsored. The video is supported by those of you who have gotten coffee from our website, spurrowcoffee.com. So if you want to drink great coffee for yourself, check out our website, spurrowcoffee.com, and give it a try. And thank you for your continued support. All right, so this episode is one that's first aired June 27, 2005. It features Aaron Ultimo and Ryan Jensen. And if you're in the Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. markets, those names might mean something to you. Aaron currently owns Ultimo Coffee in Philadelphia, and Ryan owns Peregrine Espresso today in Washington, D.C. But at the time, they worked for Murky Coffee for Nick in D.C. And then, so that's one that we're going to hear from them in this episode. We're also going to have topics about whether or not being a regional barista champion is a hindrance or help for the U.S. championship. And then there's evidently the fight between baristas and coffee shop owners. And then what else is going on with the BJ as well, a few other things that are in there. As always, I don't get to listen to the episodes before we do this show. And it's pretty much the first time that I'll be hearing the episode since we released it back in 2005. So if you got any questions from the live stream, drop them in the comments here. And we'll talk to them. And what we're going to do is as we go along, if you're first time joining us, we listen a bit. And when there's time to comment or make reactions or anything, we're going to stop and continue on with that. But for the moment, that's pretty much it. So let's get into the podcast. Oh, that's some funky music. Funky music. With a little bit of Latin flair.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and all the ships at sea. Welcome to podcast number 5, Portafilter podcast number 5, for this Monday, June 27th, 2005. Yes. Welcome, everyone. My name is Nicholas Cho, and sitting across again from this beautiful IKEA table is my friend and colleague, Mr. Jay Caragay. Party on, Jay.
Party on, Nick.
And sitting to my right, your left, if you're sitting in the audience, is a good friend and one of the Murky Coffee team here in beautiful Arlington, Virginia, Mr. Aaron Ultimo. Party on, Aaron.
Party on, Nick.
Aaron's last name is indeed Ultimo. It is not a made-up name. It is his given name, right?
Yes.
It's kind of like has that like Wolf Blitzer kind of name where it's like, give me a break. Your name is not Ultimo, but indeed it is.
Truly is.
Since when?
Since when what?
Since when was his name?
Since I was born.
Oh, I thought you changed it from something else. Like when you immigrated from Italy, they changed your name, that kind of thing.
I'm not an immigrant.
Oh, no.
It's funny. We
My
go
apologies.
to Baja Fresh, that burrito place, and there's actually a burrito Ultimo on the menu.
Ah, burrito Ultimo. Ah, see.
And so we go, and Aaron looks up at the menu, and he smiles sheepishly before he orders. But again,
how many do you get? Uno burrito?
Uno burrito.
Uno burrito, uno ultimo. Sí.
he speaks. You guys don't speak Spanish.
Un poco.
A little bit.
I really need to stop have to learn because I had this girl came in the other day and she's Spanish speaking, can barely speak any English, wants to know about getting a job, cleaning at the shop.
Hey, not bad.
hey, if
you gonna hire someone to clean? Business must be good.
Thinking about it. But well, you know how that goes.
Yes.
Clean.
Yes.
Gotta clean.
That's right. Gotta keep things clean. Again, welcome everyone to Portafilter Podcast, portafilter.net podcast number 5.
.net.
This beautiful Monday. It's a little. I'm looking outside here in beautiful Arlington, Virginia, and I see cloudy skies, and it's a little muggy, but it's a beautiful day for a podcast, isn't it, Jay? Party on, Jay.
Party on, Nick.
Party on, gents.
Party on air.
Party on air.
What to talk about?
Well, I think we should say. I have to say this intelligentsia Lapsang Souchong tea has been very
okay. So
very excellent.
Let's set the stage here for.
Let's
set the stage here for a second. We have our beautiful IKEA table. This is circa. I think like about 1992. I think this table is.
Is it really?
Classic IKEA.
Yeah, I was living actually down the street here, and I had an apartment, and I bought this from a guy who lived upstairs, and we've had it ever since. And we got our 3 laptops out, and we're like looking at stuff online, and we have our show agenda here listed out. And I'm just at the bottom of my mug of this beautiful Mexico
Pluma.
Organic Mexico Pluma.
That's a nice one.
Courtesy Counterculture Coffee, and it's really smooth and really nice.
From Oaxaca.
Peter Giuliano likes to say this is. I mean, there are a lot of overused terms, especially in our kind of cyberspace kind of collective consciousness. And talking about chocolate in coffee and espresso is kind of one of them. But this is sort of...
I do want to stop there for a moment because Nick said that courtesy of Counterculture, this Mexican Pluma, and the reality is that at the time, Nick owned a company called Murky Coffee, and Murky Coffee was a client of Counterculture. They supplied the coffee for Murky, and so that to say that's compliments of kind of gives a suggestion that the portafilter.net podcast was supported by external companies. It was not, I'm almost 100% certain that Nick and through Murky paid for that coffee rather than being a complimentary thing from the company.
Chocolate, manifests in a coffee.
Chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
Very chocolatey.
It actually grows alongside chocolate.
In Oaxaca, how do you say that? Oaxaca, Mexico. And so
in the state of Oaxaca, Mexico.
Yes.
Is it a state? It's a republic. Los Estados Unidos de Mexico.
Do they have representation in their
Guilda de Barista de Mexico. That's what it's called.
Look at you.
It's true. It's true.
Whipping up.
I used to date Hispanic girls. It was beautiful. Beautiful.
Family show.
I'm horribly embarrassed to hear that.
And Aaron and Jay over there have been splitting a pot of, what was it again?
Lapsang Souchong.
Mm-hmm.
From Intelligentsia Coffee Roasters and Tea Blenders in Chicago, Illinois.
Chicago. Did you hear about?
Yes, I did.
I don't know if you guys have this experience. Okay, so I'm a bit older than most people that are baristas today in the coffee business. I enjoyed the 1980s really well in my teens. So that gives you an idea. I'm a bit older, but like one of the things that I think about from time to time, and typically it's when I'm listening to other people talk, I think about myself and I think to myself, did I sound like this when I was their age? And I remember like I went to my father one day and I said to him, hey, those times that I would sit around pontificating about whatever I was pontificating about, I want to apologize to you for those times because, gosh, I really was like just an idiot talking. And I bring that up now because listening to myself 15 years ago, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. I'm embarrassed. I will tell you I'm embarrassed. But that's the stage of life. Let's continue.
You missed out on that, see? You're too busy playing with your mixer over there.
I'm sorry. I like to fondle the mixer. So many things to talk about. Want to start out, by thanking everyone who have been listening these past few weeks.
Thank you.
A lot of kind words from a lot of folks, including Mr. Mark Prince, CoffeeGeek.com.
Coffee. Oh,
that's
that whole thing with him and Bada.
Oh, at the end of the last
podcast. That was hilarious.
Did you hear it?
How does that go? He was talking about
welcome to Coffee Geek Podcast.
Coffee Geek Podcast. But that reminded me of. Did you see that movie Casino? Casino with
De Niro and
De Niro.
I never saw Casino.
Oh, if you've watched Casino, and Bobby De Niro plays this character who eventually tries to make his own TV show, and there's this girl that does his announcement. Welcome to this, whatever show with whatever the guy's name, and listen to Bada say this from Mark.
Lovely and talented Bada.
I just thought of Casino right away. I was like, Casino.
With your head, coffee geek himself, Mark Prince.
Welcome, Mark Prince.
Is that what it says on one of the podcasts?
Yeah,
the most recent one.
On the
third one?
It's good stuff.
I haven't heard yet.
Hi, Mark. Hi, Bada. Hi, and hi to all our friends. Again, as we always do in Canada.
Hey.
But anyway, but again, big thanks to everyone. And Mark said a lot of nice things at the end of his last podcast to us. And so
yes, very nice.
We reciprocate right back at you, baby. Double guns. Right back at over toward the northwest in Vancouver over there. And it's interesting. I mean, we started our podcast, and Mark was like, he told me about his ideas about having one, and I stole them, outright.
Which ideas?
Oh, just about having a podcast and wanting to do all that.
Oh, yes.
And so we went ahead and came out with ours, and Mark went ahead and, got his out, and it's been good. I think that, everyone would agree that, when it comes to the coffee industry as a whole, be it, on the professional side or in the consumer side, I think the more the merrier. I think there needs to be more voices. I would like to see more as Jay pours and sipping another cup of...
What is that, number 3 now? 4?
4 or 5. Man, it's delicious.
It is. It's really good.
The Lapsang Souchong is
it's better than coffee. I don't know what we're doing here.
Some kind of burnt tea or something, right?
Yeah, it's got
smoked.
Smoked.
It's like smoked.
Is it smoked?
Yeah, it's a smoked black tea.
You really know your stuff about the product line. I'm really impressed.
Well,
nice to see that.
I've been doing this a while.
Yeah, Aaron is our coffee boss. We haven't really come up with a good title for you yet.
I'm kind of ripping some of the titles out there.
I think Guru de Café is probably the one. Guru
Head trainer and keeper of coffee knowledge was one that was thrown around.
Keeper of coffee knowledge.
I like to use that every once in a
while.
while.
Isn't that Ellie's title?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Keeper of coffee. Is it keeper of coffee knowledge or mistress of coffee knowledge?
She's something a little bit more professional.
Oh, I don't know.
Anyway,
you guys' companies are so big compared to mine. I just don't know.
But thanks to everyone, and we hope that you continue to listen to both ours and for Mark's. And he had some good stuff the other, not the third one, but the second one with George Howell.
George
from the Boston area, and from I'm still having trouble with it. They talked about pronunciation. I think it's terroir. It's like got that French thing, but then with the R is not so. It's like terroir. Right back, terroir. It's like the R comes back and sneaks up on you.
I think it's just time to go with the American terror.
Yeah, it's like terroir. The R sneaks up on you right behind you, just like Dan Keene at the SEA show in Seattle. Coming up, sneak up behind you. And
like, hey guys, holy crap.
Yes. And but again, thanks to everybody, and continue to vote for Mark's podcast on the Coffee Geek podcast on podcastalley.com, and I saw that it broke the top 50 overall.
Did it really?
And it's the number 1 food and drink podcast over there. I mean, I think that our podcast over here is it's a pretty specialized kind of topics, specialized topics and the demographic, I guess, that we're going for. But and so as far as like the general kind of public, we're all about hyping up the Coffee Geek podcast.
I agree with you.
And so is Arnold.
It's true. It's true. True. I like that.
Good stuff.
Number 1 in the food and beverage.
Number 1. The Coffee Geek is number 1. We're up there too, but Mark is on the top 50, and anyway. Let's see what to talk about. We have an agenda here today. We're gonna talk about some little.
That does make sense that Mark's podcast did very well in its first 3 episodes, because Mark runs was at the time was running and still does, I believe, runs the coffeegeek.com website, which at the time had a very massive BBS system where you could come in, what we call forums, where there was a lot of exchange of information. So a lot of readership just from the article side, but also a lot of participation, a lot of community in their forums. The forums are no longer active. Evidently, it says there's a holding page now that says it's going to come back. Honestly, I don't really follow a lot of the forums that are out there, so I don't really know how long that holding page has been out there. But I imagine that at some point in time, that may come back.
News items out there in we've seen online, not only in the news, but on the Barista Guild board as well. And we want to talk about the regional barista competitions coming up that are part of the USBC kind of group of barista competitions. We want to talk about the whole guest espresso kind of thing that's been out there, been discussed out online, and been a lot of good stuff happening out there and in some of the independent shops there. And the dreaded barista-only section discussion. We'll get to that. Maybe we won't. Hopefully we won't.
We should. We definitely
should. But
should be discussed. Getting
right into it. News bites from the internet. One of the things, I posted this recently to the Barista Guild board, straight from the pages of Starbucks Gossip, which is starbucksgossip.typepad.com. Starbucks erases espresso. June 24th, 2005. Starbucks erases espresso from its menu board for the summer. This is a quote from Business Week. It says, Starbucks has developed endless permutations of drink combinations, 20,000 at last count. So maybe it was inevitable that high-concept macchiatos, frappuccinos, and shanticos would elbow aside a humble cup of dark, thick coffee. In late May, plain espresso quietly disappeared from menu boards. Customers who know to ask a barista can still get a single or double shot, but Starbucks has made a decision to push its iced drinks in the summer, explains Michelle Gass, Senior Vice President for Category Management. So Starbucks, they took espresso off the menu. I always thought it was weird that they actually had like espresso con panna and espresso macchiato up there. I know that very few folks actually ever ordered that from Starbucks, but they've gone ahead and just taken the plunge and just pulled it from the menu boards altogether.
The con panna's gone too?
I think that I think that actually those have been gone for a little while. I don't know. I don't go to Starbucks enough. I go there actually pretty often. I go and get their Tazo shaken iced tea, the passion.
You do?
Yeah, I get an Venti size with 2 pumps of classic. The classic classic is what they call their general sweetener.
Isn't Venti large?
Venti is a 20. Actually, here's an interesting. Do you know this? At Starbucks, the Venti is 20 ounces, but the Venti iced is I think 24.
Where did I read that somewhere?
Yeah, maybe might have read it on my left arm. I've got that fact tattooed on my left.
That was it.
What I my sad excuse for a bicep. But anyway, I'm personally never one for Starbucks bashing. I think that it's a crappy kind of practice. I think it's something that's very in vogue in our industry.
It goes against the Barista Code of Conduct number 3.
There's really no need.
The official Barista Code of Conduct for baristas all across the world.
All across the world.
No, but there's no need for that kind of. I mean, I think. Okay. I want to say this without in turn Starbucks bashing, but it's kind of, I almost want to say it's beneath a barista to need to do that about anybody. It's, Starbucks is Starbucks. Why, there's no need to bring them down. I think Starbucks has done a lot of good stuff out there for coffee, regardless of what a lot of people say. And what's the point of play-hating on the old Big Green?
I love Starbucks myself.
Do you go?
No, I don't go at all. But what do I like about Starbucks? Starbucks, they've made it all right to charge $4.50 for a latte.
Watch it. That's an owner perspective right there, buddy.
And yes, it is.
Watch it with your owner perspective.
Yes, it is.
Another thing
but that also allows me to pay my staff in turn.
That's true.
And also allows me to pay for the high quality coffee that we're using.
True.
So I think there's a lot of good in that.
I suppose. No comment. Chicago leveling technique. This is something that was brought up on the Barista Guild board recently. You know what they're talking about? The whole thing with intelligentsia?
So, I got pounded hard 2 years ago at the Midwestern Regional Barista Competition for using a straw in the same manner.
A straw?
A straw, because, a straw is flat, right? So you're going to use that and drag the straw across the edge of the basket on your portafilter to level it out and make sure it's all even so there's no uneven spots. And the ridges in your fingers aren't going to have that problem.
Right.
Well, a good friend of mine whose opinion I respect tremendously was like, what the hell are you doing there? And raked the coals over it. Bud. And so we changed that. But it's interesting to see that other companies are doing that now as a method to for consistency.
did not use the finger.
And not giving the
Have
finger.
you seen them do it, Aaron?
I've never seen him do it.
At Intelligentsia.
I've seen people do it.
Yeah.
I've seen Dr. John do it.
Oh, that's right, Dr. Joseph.
Oh, Dr. John
We
does
haven't
it?
talked about Dr. John's before on the podcast.
Oh, I like
Dr. Joseph John from Josuma Coffee Company in California, purveyor of Malamar Gold Premium. What is it? Italian espresso?
I don't know. You would know.
European espresso. Good stuff. Hi, Dr. John. I don't know if he's listening, but if he is, hi. We love you.
He's burning you in effigy at this point.
We still have there's a spot in our hearts here at Murky Coffee for the Robusta laden espresso blends.
Is it Robusta?
Well, I think there's a Robusta component, as there is with Espresso Vivace espresso, which is what we started out in the business with back 3.5 years ago, about.
So 3 years and 3 roasters.
Maybe. Wait,
is that right?
I guess so.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
4? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh,
Actually, 4.
4 in 3 years.
4 in 3 years.
Oh my!
But we're in a great spot with counterculture now. But I will admit, and I think that it's safe to say we're all there is a soft spot in our hearts for the Robusta. We got a sample from Trish.
Oh yeah. I want to take a moment because when we were talking about this intelligentsia technique, what we were talking about at the time is that you would have your portafilter and you'd grind the coffee into it, and then you would use your finger to manipulate the grounds in order to create a bed of even distribution. Some people would use the stock finesse, which was kind of this kind of using this part of your hand and just kind of working it around. But what they were talking about with this intelligentsia thing was taking some kind of straight edge, and at the time they were using like a bar styled bottle cap opener, the one that's like a long, thick bar. And what they're talking about doing was using it to not rake, but just push the coffee around, or just kind of just do one swipe and just push it off and make it level. That was the technique, and that was what I had done. I had thought about that a couple of years before, where I was using a straw in the same manner, so that I would push it around. But my mentor at the time was like, my mentor in the business was like, oh no, that is not the way. This is the way. Of course, that's all now been superseded by, or at least they're trying to supersede it with all kinds of other tools, WDT and things that are still beyond my understanding.
Why must you bring up her name without these things? You know what it does to me?
I know.
You know what it does to me? And if she's married, her husband hates me now. I called the other day, and the husband's like, hello? Can I speak to Trish, please? Who's calling? He's real nice on the phone. This is Jay from Baltimore. Oh! Get the hell off the phone. Click. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Trish sent us out a nice sample of their, what's it called? The espresso...
The Organic Panic?
Organic Panic espresso.
How is that?
Which is like 30% Robusta.
It's fabulous.
Really?
Aaron, what did you think of it?
I loved it. It just had that, what some refer to as the Robusta funk to it, which I just love.
The funk.
It's kind of got a funk, but to me, it's kind of like oak in a wine. It's sort of a little peculiar, and you don't like it at first, maybe, but after a while, you miss it, and you start looking for it in other blends, and you don't see it. No, we burnt it all up.
And that was like over a month ago, I think.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Oh, how come she sends you? She didn't send me.
Yeah, well,
I'm upset.
What can I say? Anyway,
shows you how much she loves me.
Yeah, getting back to the topic at hand. So, at Intelligentsia, they use kind of this metal, like tongue depressor shape. It's actually, I think, a bottle opener, but they use it, and so they dose. Tap tap tap. They dose, and then they take this implement, and they chop, like Yang Can Cook. Going across the top. Chop. Yang can cook, so can you. Join again. They chop across the top of the portafilter, kind of helping, and that's their way of kind of distributing it out. And then they take the little implement, and then they kind of scrape. Oh. Scrape. I'm trying to do sound effect here.
Sound effect.
Kind of scrape it off, and then, but keeping in mind that they use triple baskets at Intelli.
So they don't need to mound it at all.
Right. To mound it.
Oh, to mound.
Watch it. Family show. But it's interesting. I mean, we'll see. I think that traditionally we've all been using our fingers, our dirty fingers, straight from the nostril to the portafilter top,
Fingering your baskets.
That's right.
That's the way to do it.
Family show, watch it. But we'll see. I mean, I think that there is that contingent out there that will say, you got to touch the coffee to really know what's going on and really have a feel for it, that there's no substitute for actually, touching the coffee. My buddy Chris Tacey wrote that, I think.
Yes.
I definitely
But
think that.
I don't know. I think that
Still today.
at least for me, we're trying our best to be open-minded for all, in all things when it comes to coffee. And so we'll see. Maybe we'll whip out an implement here. I don't know. Maybe people should try it in their shops just to
Whip
see.
out an implement.
Watch it. Anyway.
Who told you you can eat my cookies?
Regional barista competitions. I have a rough schedule, a little news scoop here. A rough schedule at least on the upcoming regional 2005-2006 schedule.
Oh, I'm not going to be happy about this, am I?
Are you planning to compete in the Mid-Atlantic?
I don't know yet. I think some of my staff wants to compete, so I don't know if I should.
Be nice.
I don't think I would compete against them.
Yeah, so we'll have to see. In the room with us is Ryan Jensen, 2005 Southeast Regional Barista champion. And one of the things that we've been kind of laughing about recently is that he won in January. Was it January? Yeah, at the end of January. And rather than having a full year to kind of celebrate his victory, he's getting cut off in, I think, September. So like an 8-month, maybe even less than 8-month reign by Mr. Ryan. But
Gypped.
Yeah.
Ripped off.
So
But at least you got a machine.
yes, that's true. Yeah. The Historia Sibilia. Let's see.
Didn't they fly you down to
Seattle?
What's it called? No, not to Seattle. But didn't they fly you over to
No.
to Charlotte?
Who?
No, I thought that's all part of it. You get
Who,
to
Ryan?
Yeah, you get to travel around the southeast. And
Yeah, he does a tour.
nice national book tour.
Yeah, Ryan likes to also go by his pen name, the Washingtonian.
Oh, nice.
Sometimes as he's traveling around. But anyway, let's see. This is a tentative calendar. This is by no means an official calendar. No dates have been officially set yet, except for one. But I'll go through. August 2005, tentatively, the Great Lakes Regional Barista Competitions.
August, like early, mid, late.
I think late August, maybe even early September. Hosted by Intelligentsia Coffee Roasters and Tea Blenders, Chicago, Illinois. And so look forward to that, folks. Southeast Regional Barista Competition. These dates are set September 28th through 30th, 2005, at Playmakers Repertory
28th.
Company.
When is the Nordic Barista Cup?
I don't know.
The weekend before?
I have no idea.
See, this is bad news. Okay, continue.
Hosted by Counterculture Coffee in Durham, North Carolina. And it's going to be on the campus, I believe, of University of North Carolina, right?
Yes, UNC.
So
We drove by it the other day.
yeah, so that's end of September. Sometime during September as well, tentatively, the Mountain Region Barista Competition.
During NASCAR?
That I don't know. Hosted by Allegro Coffee Company. Location TBA to be announced. The Northwest Regional. This one is pretty set, and that's October 2005. Jointly hosted by Heinz Public Market Coffee and Stumptown Coffee Roasters.
Oh, I guess it means I'll be in September, and I'll be in Seattle in October. Okay.
So that's the Northwest. I think it's going to be happening at the same weekend of Coffee Fest Seattle. That I know. So I don't remember.
Oh, that's good. I've never been to Coffee Fest Seattle.
I should stop here for just a second to let you know that in this era, in 2005, the United States Barista Championship, well, back then there was only the World Barista Championship, right? Today, now there's a whole bunch of different coffee competitions that fall under World Coffee events. But back then it was only the WBC. And the United States Barista Championship was considered to be a pretty large and quite competitive arena. Because it was the United States, the Specialty Coffee Association thought that they needed to have 10 regions for competition. So they divided the country into 10 regions: Mountain, Pacific Northwest, Mid-Atlantic, Southeast, Northeast. I don't recall South Central. I don't really quite remember all of the regions anymore, but there were 10 of them back then. And those 10, they actually never had. So the idea was to have regional championships in all 10 regions. But there was never enough participation back in that era that they actually ended up having them. And a lot of them, never were really money makers, and a lot of the sponsors were eventually kind of turned off because the return on their investment was very, very small to negative. Fast forward to today, like right now, this week, this is January 18th, we are getting ready for the regional the regional qualifiers. And what they're doing now is that they have preliminary championships in different parts of the country. I'm not sure how many that they're doing. And then now we're at the level of the qualifying. Qualifying rounds there's 2 different qualifying competitions or rounds. One's being held here in Baltimore on the weekend of January 27th. And then the next one is being held in Denver, Colorado, a few weeks after. And then the people that get certain places in those competitions then can be seeded into the national championships that's happening in April in Portland. And the person that wins that will move on to the World Championships in Athens in June. So that's just a little bit of backstory on the difference between then and now.
Hi, Mr. David Halbrun and all the folks over at Coffee Fest, good friends up there. Midwest Regional Competition, February 2006, hosted by the Roastery Incorporated.
Roastery.
Mr. Danny O'Neill. And the giant behemoth that is Danny O'Neill.
Yes.
How tall is he? Like 7 feet tall?
I thought he was like 9.
9?
9.
Let's say 8.
If it's like surfing, he's like double overhead.
What?
In surfing, there's the size of the wave, you can say it's double overhead. Overhead, double overhead.
No idea what you're talking about.
Never mind.
Anyway, so that's the Midwest.
You're in Hawaii.
Sorry. Yeah. Sometime in February. And let's see, Western Regional.
I heard they canceled that one.
Really?
No, I don't know.
Western Regional.
I'm just getting tired of traveling now.
Sometime in March 2006, hosted by TaylorMade Farms.
Oh, nice.
An organic coffee and tea. Mid-Atlantic Regional Barista Competition, February 2006, hosted by who?
Murky Coffee.
Murky Coffee.
Those guys? They don't know what they're doing.
Those
Come on
dicks.
God, terrible.
Big jerks. That's going to be end of February. That's going to also coincide with Coffee Fest, DC.
Oh, Coffee Fest again.
A little trend here. Northeast Regional Barista Competition. I know that there's some questions here. Northeast Regional, yes.
Oh, where's that going to be held?
Don't know yet.
Oh, when?
Don't know.
Oh, well.
South Central Regional Barista Competition. That'll be hosted by Cuvée Coffee Roasting Company. That's,
McKim.
Yep, Mr. Mike McKim. Hi, Mike, if you're listening to this. He's also works for ESI, but he has his own roasting company down in Texas. And I've heard that maybe the South Central would actually be in San Antonio, Texas.
Oh, I love San Antonio.
And if I do make it down there, we'll go by and see Cafe Gio.
What's that?
He's a friend that I've talked to who just opened his spot down there. Loris, his name is Loris Azea, I think his last name is.
Oh, nice.
They're using Intelligentsia Coffee,
nice.
And just opened down there in San Antonio. And so good coffee down in San Antonio now.
There's better women in San Antonio.
Well, then you've also got your NBA champions.
Oh, see, those are things that you guys can go do that. Go look at coffee, go look at NBA. I'm going to go down onto the Riverwalk and be like, hey, oh, hola, 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 mujer linda.
Yes.
Mujer linda.
Oh,
so that's our competition calendar. So, again, the only region that probably will not have a regional this year is the Southwest, I believe.
Really?
Yeah, we're still there right now. There are tentatively 9 out of the 10 regions will have regionals, and so we'll see how that goes. Yeah, so
it's getting harder. It's going to be harder at the USBC.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is actually an interesting discussion.
How can I win?
One of the Coffee Geek podcasts.
Yeah.
I think it was either the I think it was the
The
first
last
one.
one.
Was it the last one where they talked about that?
The round table.
I mean, the thing is that yeah, it's interesting. You know what I'm talking about? The whole issue of the fact that, in theory at least, you could look at winning a regional as being almost penalized.
Oh, that was a couple of podcasts ago,
That was
right?
the first
that was
one,
the
I
first one, yes.
You know what we're talking about, Aaron? The issue is that if you go to the USBC, the way it's set up right now, okay, you don't compete at a regional, or maybe you did and didn't win, but nonetheless you're at the USBC first round. Now, disclaimer, with all due respect to those who didn't make it into semifinals at the USBC this past year, if you're going to be a contender for the finals, you're a shoo-in for semis, in theory at least, right? And so the whole thing is that if you win a regional, you go straight to the semi.
Right.
So in a way, the issue that was brought up is an interesting point. If you win at a regional, don't you maybe go into the USBC with a little bit of a disadvantage? Because you lose that opportunity for almost like a dress rehearsal for finals.
That makes sense.
When you compete, as a regional champion going straight to the semis. What do you think, Jay?
I think there's an argument to be made, but I think the converse side is, if you are truly an exceptional barista that's got a lot of skills, then I don't think it matters. Look at our number 2 in the USBC.
Ellie
was the champion in her region, the Great Lakes, and
but
went almost to the very top. And she didn't have to fight through the first round. So I think it's a matter of if you're really a solid barista.
Well, here's an interesting. That brings up an interesting point. What if? Let's play the what if game for a second. What if Ellie had not won at the Great Lakes? What if she had come in fresh? Would she have would that extra experience in that first round, competing in the first round, given her that extra boost, maybe put her in first place?
I think there's always a perhaps, but I think if we look back at the history of the Great Lakes competition, and we look at the top 2 who actually flip-flopped from the semifinals to the finals round.
You're talking about Ellie and Amber.
Ellie and Amber.
Amber Sather.
So Amber Sather, not winning the Great Lakes, had to fight through the beginning rounds.
Right.
She still made it to the finals.
True.
So I think that, if you're a quality barista that can master the competition techniques, I don't see that there being a hindrance either way.
Well, I mean, I think making finals is one thing.
Right.
But then, as we know, when it comes to rankings, you're talking about a small margin of error. I mean, Feng Tran, love her to death, she missed finals at the World Barista Championships this year by half a point.
But I think also on the other side of that is that USBC, WBC, I think, are still 2 different worlds.
True.
There's a whole different level of...
They don't even have semis at the World right now.
Right. So, but we're going back, staying with the USBC, looking at our talent, and specifically with this whole, is winning the regional a disadvantage to you? I think if you're a solid barista, the answer is no.
Okay. Well,
just because if we look, we're taking the 2 examples from one region.
Yeah.
The number 1 and 2 people from the region.
Okay.
And the winner went on to be seeded in the semifinals. The one that placed second had to work her way through the preliminary rounds. They both ended up in the finals.
Right.
So I think that's a very strong testament of on that skill really is the whole thing. I mean, and I think that it's really interesting because you look at intelligentsia throughout the United States and all the different regionals they participated in. I mean, you had Matt Riddle. He did almost 800 points in the Western.
Yeah. Hey, Matt.
Solid. I mean, really, and he's the web guy.
Yeah.
Solid.
Well, he was a bar barista before, though,
okay.
keep in mind.
But almost 100 points over the actual champion of that region. I mean, we're talking about a company that's fielding seriously talented baristas that are working very hard at their technique, their craft, and at the competition level. If you're really at that level, I don't see anything stopping you.
Well, again, I think that... I mean, my question still is there a competitive advantage? Maybe... you know what? We'll ask Ellie sometime. I know Ellie's been listening to the podcast, albeit a little late. But she's a very, very busy young lady.
Mm-hmm.
And
I wonder with the thought of, does getting the bye into the semifinals round, bypassing the preliminary round, give you an advantage, or is it a disadvantage? I think we can look at that and compare it to, let's say, the NFL, National Football League, where the playoffs come about and some teams are seeded further into the postseason than others. And I remember that, I think it has a lot to do with desire. Now thinking about it, desire and just everything coming together. For example, 10 years ago, Baltimore was in a situation where we were not able to get a seeded position into the playoffs. And the Baltimore Ravens had to fight every game. We played 4 games in the 4 seasons, so we had to fight for every game. And I remember I was very involved with the fandom at the time, and I had season tickets, and I was going to all the games. And there was just something that was in the air about it. There was just some feeling that we had that was like, okay, we're going to take this because we've got the right blend of things. And it was at a time when, in the December of 2012, a lot of the fandom was very much down on things. They were very much down on Joe Flacco because he wasn't performing as well, or whatever the case may have been. But I remember at the end of the season, I remember telling my seatmates at the stadium, I said, we're going to go 4 more. We're playing 4 more games. We are playing 4 more games. I had no question about it. And we went on to win the Super Bowl. And, I think there's something to be said. There are advantages to having that rest time, that time for calmness without having to battle through every round. But sometimes maybe that battle is an advantage. I don't know. What do you think today? I do see that when we're in the competitions, especially at the world level, the top 6 that go to the finals, really it's kind of close. And even at most of the nationals, it's relatively close. Sometimes there is a bit of a spread, but a lot of times it could easily be any of them on the winning position, just depending on the day, depending on how the wind blew through the audience that day. Well, that's some thoughts.
Anyway, so it's an interesting topic. Any thoughts?
There might be a point to sort of warm up around, or there might be some merit to that argument. But I think ultimately, I have to agree with Jay. I think if you're a better barista, you're going to make it no matter what.
I think if you're a shoddy barista like I am, no, really. Really. Let's be honest here. If you're weak in skills and weak in competition like I am, you're going to benefit by going through the preliminary rounds, making it to the semifinals, and then hopefully making it to the finals. That means you have had 3 performances. So the first one that I had.
Well, conversely to that, the more performances you're doing, it could be more fatiguing. Like, for example, I used to play in a very competitive paintball team in Hawaii, and we were essentially the best in the state. One-day tournaments, we would rule. We would and all we had in Hawaii were basically 1 or 2-day tournaments, right? So we crushed it. Then we finally went to the nationals to compete there. First day, we did great, played great, did everything great. But it's a 3-day tournament. By day 2, we were so exhausted. We were just beat down from the day before because we didn't have the endurance. We weren't prepared for that endurance. So, hopefully, if you're a barista that's competing, you're taking the time to build that endurance, because if you do go to the nationals, you will do 3 rounds, and you want to be essentially as fit to last through because you got to have the same coffee, same techniques, same technical abilities, same level of enthusiasm, same delivery of information. You got to be able to get all that out there, and doing that over 3 days, once a day is kind of tough. So that's something to consider as well.
In the preliminary rounds, that really smoothed it out for me.
Right.
So that hopefully my performance in the second round,
well, there you go,
was better.
That's the.
But what I'm saying
what if your semifinal performance was your only one? Would you have done better or worse if you were not allowed to?
Me, probably
round?
Worse.
Okay.
But I'm not of the caliber.
I do want to make a statement. Like here in this audio, my 15-year-old self is talking about how I'm just not a very good technically. I don't think it's necessarily about technical ability. Like, this is one thing to understand about the competitions. Is like, even back then, I was a very competent barista. I think, technically, I can make very good espresso, make very good drinks, and we were serving them in a very nice environment for our guests. Very, very focused. And a lot of barista competitors people would complain that these competitions are not like cafe life. They're not reflective of cafe life, and that's the big key. They are not reflective of cafe life. They are their own thing. Like, there's a whole set of codified rules that as a competitor, you're expected to know. You're expected to know them. You're expected to perform to them. That's what makes the difference between the winners and everyone else, is that they understand the rules and they know how to exploit it. And if you're going to compete, that's what you really need to do. Learn the rules, learn the score sheets, exploit them. That will help make you a better competition barista.
Barista that we're talking with Amber and Ellie.
Well, I don't think
or Fung. I mean, these guys are really at the top of the game.
Well, they're good, okay, and I don't think that this is any kind of insult to anybody.
Right.
But no one's mastered the competitions.
No
one's even
mastered.
come close.
But when you look at the field of baristas, as far as like finalists, semi-finalist baristas, someone a barista like me particularly is at the bottom of the spectrum compared to Amber and Ellie and Fung. Those guys are at the top of the spectrum, where I'm on the other end. So I think it's a very different thing. For someone like me who needs more time to work it out, who needs better skills. I think that working through several rounds is a positive and helpful thing.
Okay.
But for someone of Ellie and Amber's caliber, I think they can walk in and slam away at it.
Well, so do I, but we'll see. We'll talk.
But the other side, like you're saying, Fung had to fight her way through the whole thing.
And I also know that Fung didn't get as much practice before because she had just come back. If you remember, she was in Japan opening the first Open Japan. To prepare. Yeah, and so in a way, maybe that first round was an invaluable kind of dress rehearsal for semis.
That could be, but also I think
the kinks a little bit.
I think the fact that she only had 2 weeks to come back and then win the whole thing.
Oh, for sure, it's a testament to her professionalism.
Oh, absolutely. But that's what I'm saying. Is that we're still talking. I think when it comes to Bruce, we're still talking apples and oranges. I'm the orange and she's the apple. Or I'm the rotten fig. You know what I'm saying?
Rotten fig.
It's true. It's really true.
Okay. Well, we'll hear. I want to hear from Ellie and maybe send us an email. Kyle, I'd like to maybe talk to him because he was a regional champion.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And Kyle Larson, great barista. Great representative of our craft. But and I'll throw this out there. Kyle was one of the few baristas that went ahead and tried to go really hardcore and whipped out 2 grinders at the USBC. And I personally think, that just in terms of my personal commentary, I think that trying to dial in 2 grinders at the USBC level is maybe taking. I think it shows how hardcore these guys are. I think maybe it's a little bit too much of a risk. I know Billy Wilson did the same thing. He did place 3rd, but that's. I think it's hard. But nonetheless, maybe what if Kyle had that first round experience to try to dial in both and see, check out the machines and who knows? What if? Ryan just came. He stepped out and came back. Ryan, step up to the mic real quick here for a second. Ryan again won, the Southeast Regional and competed at the U.S. The discussion is, or here's the question: do you think that you would have done better at the semifinal level at the USBC if you had competed in the first round as well? Let's just leave it at that.
I think that there was so much more information rattling through my head that having one more chance, a little less pressure to kind of take a crack at it and be a little more forgiving environment in the first round would have been valuable and possibly to my benefit. But some of the problems that I dealt with, I don't know, it wouldn't have really mattered either way. But I think it would have been good. I think it would have been. It would have given us another day cushion. I think we dealt with some. Our roast was a little fresh, I think, and I don't know, another day another day was the answer. I came in the next morning and my shots were stupendous, and I was so mad. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I hadn't really thought about it until recently, but
now you're opening old wounds.
Yeah. Well, I'd actually like to hear, either from just responding to this podcast via email, podcast@portafilter.net. Let's see. We got Kyle. We got Pete Licata. That's how you say his name, right? From the Midwest. We got Ellie. We've got Ryan here, and then am I missing somebody?
Heather.
Oh, Heather Perry as
Perry.
well. I'd love to hear, from these folks. Maybe this is some feedback that we can send back to the USBC committee. It's not too late to kind of make some changes possibly to the competition for next year. But if it's unanimous that competing in going straight to semifinals as a regional champion is actually a disadvantage instead of an advantage, maybe we can talk about it a little bit with the committee and see what they have to say. I don't know. So we'll see.
Wait. So does that mean that if they were to allow the regional champions into the preliminary rounds, they could also be eliminated?
maybe they could give us an extra 50 points or something.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we can brainstorm a little bit. I mean, maybe they compete in the first round, but they're guaranteed entrance into the next round.
So it's just a warm-up exercise, or.
But again, if the discussion is that if the conclusion is that there is a significant, there goes Jay's phone. No, but if it's deemed that indeed being able to compete in the first round and not bypass is a major advantage, then maybe we need to talk about it. So who knows? We'll see. Okay, next topic: guest espresso. This is a little bit of a sore spot for me in a way.
Sore spot?
Well,
you've had 4 guest espressos over the last couple of years.
that too, but I had my own ideas about something like this, and then started hearing about it over on the West Coast.
It started on the East Coast.
It did?
Yeah.
Who started it?
Jay's Shave Ice. We did it last year after the conference.
All right, tell us about it.
Didn't you read about it in Barista Magazine? You can read about it in Barista Magazine.
All right, whip it up.
Let me whip it out here. Hold on a second.
As Jay is finding the article in Barista Magazine,
It's
I will.
Right here, page 15.
Okay, go for it.
Of the most recent, the June-July 2005 issue.
The one with me on the cover.
Yes, the one with you on the cover. Says here, Jay Caragay, owner of and barista at Jay's Shave Ice in Timonium, Maryland, has experimented with similar programs in the past. A year ago, he introduced the promotion Espresso Tour of America, during which he offered espresso blends from Heinz Public Market Coffee, PT's Coffee Company in Topeka, Kansas, Intelligentsia's in Chicago, the Roastery in Kansas City, Missouri, and Zoka Coffee Roaster and Tea Company in Seattle. See?
Can we talk about how you got that coffee?
Yeah, absolutely.
What did these guys
shy about that.
So what did these guys say when you asked them for some coffee to send out to?
I didn't ask.
What happened?
They were bags of coffee sitting around, and I grabbed them and took them with me.
So at the end of
really, the honesty is that I wanted to, I'll be honest. I'm not gonna lie. This is total sheer marketing here.
Yeah.
It's I was sitting around after the USBC, and man,
in Atlanta, 2004,
there must be 75, 80, 100 pounds of coffee sitting around.
And you drove
all in sealed 5-pound bags.
Right, and you driven.
And I drove to Atlanta. I drove to Atlanta. And I was like, well, there's all this coffee here. I got to try it. So I swiped it. After everyone took off, I was like, what, all this coffee's getting thrown away? I'm going to take some with me.
As everyone's kind of murmuring because, everyone's cleaning up, and for those who didn't do so well, like me, and for that matter, Jay, and some others, it's kind of like you're putting your stuff away, and it's kind of demoralizing. You're like, oh, damn it. And then you just hear this lone voice, hey, who threw this coffee away? Can I take some of this? Is that okay? So I look over, and Jay's dumpster diving at the USB 2004 in Atlanta. And so you scored all that coffee, took it back, and
I took it back, and it's an interesting thing because the coffee that I used for the USBC competition last year was Heinz,
in Atlanta,
the same batch of coffee that Bronwyn used.
Ooh.
So it just goes to show you how poor of a barista I really am. Didn't make it into the semifinals, didn't do anything, totally got blown out the door with this Heinz coffee. While Bronwyn took it to win the whole deal.
Yeah.
See?
Even though her shirt didn't fit.
Her shirt didn't fit?
Yeah, you see the picture? She's wearing that blue button down. It's huge. It's like my size.
Whose shirt was that?
I don't know. But anyway.
I think that's something to discuss. Like when you go to, at least, I don't know how it has been the last several years because I haven't been on the competitor side since 2009. But back in this era and up until 2009, you would go to these competitions, and in the competitors' room, of course, they've got all these companies, baristas representing different companies, and they've got all kinds of coffee there. And some of them are bringing lots of coffee. Like, there's the coffees that they typically package are 5-pound bags, and some of them got 50 pounds, it seems like. And so, especially when they have a lot of bags, they'll give some away, or they just abandon them. Like, there's so much abandonment of coffee at the competitions. It's really quite shocking. And so, like I said in the podcast, I just took them. I was like, well, nobody wants this coffee, and I drove. I'm just going to take them with me, and then, I'm going to offer them to our guests as guest coffees. And these are coffees that we don't normally have, and we would let them. We would serve them the drinks for it, and it gave a great way for us to share with our guests different expressions of coffee. Now, don't get me wrong, we charged them because we needed to offset the cost of our expense to the competitions, but people got to try really different coffees, and it was a lot of fun and a really great time.
That's see, when Charlotte comes, that's me in the back of just hey, you gonna throw that away? And did you know at the Espresso Labs, they've got a lot more to throw away too.
She's gonna have get to espresso for the next 3 years after Charlotte. But that happened especially because at that time, my company hadn't switched to Heinz. Right.
That was something that John and I talked about.
Did you even have an official roaster at that point? You were trying different
we
stuff
were
out, right?
Playing with all kinds of companies at that time.
You still had your little what is that called? The little machine you had, the
the Lavatoria.
Yeah.
The what's that called?
Valentina.
The La Valentina.
Yeah.
The Alla di Vittoria. Yeah, that was a great little machine.
Still running.
Yeah, it's
Was now you got your big.
Now I got the Marzocco.
Your 3AV.
The 3AV. It's very nice. That's a very nice one too.
But anyway, guest espresso. So who's been involved? It's in the article as well. I know.
Andy Newbaum.
Shout out to Mr. Andy Newbaum, the
9th Street.
the crazy surfer boy, 9th Street Espresso. Ken Nye over in New York. Party on Ken. Party on Newbaum.
Hey Ken, I want to try that tamper of yours.
Espresso craft.
I've actually been to 9th Street.
You have?
It was a while ago.
When?
Too bad it's on Fifth Avenue, isn't it?
That was, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago.
Oh, really?
Peter, not Peter. What's his name? The mayor, the old mayor.
Giuliano.
What's his first name?
Holy moly.
Rudy. Yeah.
Too much Peter.
See, I had a joke. See, timing is so critical. I had a joke there. I was going to say, Rudy Giuliano. He had already taken care of all the places like 9th Street Espresso. All right.
That was already too late now.
Yeah,
okay, thank you.
Ken, if you ever want to send us some tampers here, send us an email, podcast at portafilter.net. And
which,
maybe we'll
he's
we'll
gonna
talk about it.
See, now you said that he's going to email a picture of the tamper. Like, here's your tamper, guys. Thanks.
Which tamper?
Espresso Craft?
Okay, the one
Beautiful.
with the little... I used it. I didn't like the ridge. It's got kind of a little
the piston part? You mean?
At the base.
Great. Now he's not going to send us one.
It kind of curves up a little bit.
What didn't you like about that?
It didn't fit in my hand the way that.
So it's your hand. Maybe it's your hand.
It could very well be my hand.
That's all right. My temper doesn't fit in my hand either.
Jay doesn't use his hands.
So, for me, it didn't work. But yeah,
there you go. You got a picture there. What page is that?
That's on page 28 of the Barista.
They're pretty tampers, but for me, it didn't work in my hand.
Yeah,
I understand.
Ken, thanks for spending a good time with my barista Sarah when she went up to New York a month or two ago.
And your baristas are traveling. Every time you have a podcast, you talk about your baristas traveling somewhere.
Dude, you know what it's like staffing? Doing schedules for a staff where everyone's like, I'm going to Panama next week. I'm going to so and so and. Katie Cargiulo, who was on the podcast a few weeks ago, she's traveling. She's going to do a semester abroad in Argentina coming up, and she's just all over the place, and everyone's all over the place except for me.
Going to Portland next weekend.
Ryan, are you?
Are you going to work a shift at Stumptown?
No.
His fiance will.
Yeah. Oh. Ryan's gonna be in Portland next week. I'm sure there are a lot of people who would love to.
There's just murky emissaries all over the world.
You are going to Stumptown, right?
I'm planning on it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but anyway, guest espresso.
Yeah, you have to go. It's. Have you been there yet? It's a great place to go, man. It's like the one downtown on 3rd and Ash. Man, I love it. And then they have this. But if you go to any of them, they're all jamming. The Belmont Street, they got the 5 group.
Yeah.
Gotta check that out.
Good stuff.
Very nice.
Well, Ryan, I'm kind of jealous. I want to get out to Portland, see our friends out there, see Stumptown Crew and Fung over at Lava Java and Brent over at Creamy Cafe and
Creamy Cafe.
Albina Press. All those folks. Go gawk at Billy Wilson's tattoos a little bit. Your friend Billy, Jay.
Billy, nice.
And anyway, guest espresso. Who else we got? Victrola has been involved in that a little bit, right?
Yes.
And I think some other folks as well. So it's interesting stuff going on out there. I think there have been people who have been kind of raising eyebrows and saying, that's kind of weird. These guys, a lot of these guys are roasters themselves, like to be promoting someone else's coffee in their shops, but it's all about education, isn't it?
It's the new attitude. I mean, kind of is a lead into one of our other topics, but it's kind of more community building versus competition. Maybe that's a little bit.
Yeah. You mean business competition?
Yeah. Maybe it's a bit ignorant of me to say that, but I don't know. I'm all about it.
No, I think it's great. I mean, especially there's so many people sharing their coffees. Yeah. It's a great way to try.
Yeah.
I had a customer come in yesterday, talking about how he's tried Black Cat. He wants to try different ones. So we talked about him trying Palladino and Toscano and Streamline. Call him up and
why not?
Yeah, I think it's important to try.
It's important for self-education, and it's important just to experience different things and see how different one espresso can be from another. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I said before that it was a little bit of a sore spot for me.
Sore spot? Why?
Only because I kind of had that idea before, in a way. We talked about it here. It wasn't so, but, to be honest, it wasn't so much like a kind of exchange program thing for us. It was just that, we're talking about maybe some point, after we really feel confident, our baristas are still kind of coming online, and we have some turnover and stuff, but, when the time comes, maybe actually sourcing some different espresso from different places, again, purely for the education and kind of the enrichment opportunity for different customers. But we'll see. Maybe we'll still do it. But shout outs over to those guest espresso folks out there all over the country. And
yes,
yeah, they're the in any given community, you're always going to have your types, your swingers. They're kind of like swingers, I think.
Swingers,
wife swap,
switching it up,
polyamory. It's kind of like they're not just faithful to their own. You experience this, sure. You tell that to your fiance when you experience this, buddy. They're like, they're kind of like
opportunists.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, not opportunists, but like some.
I know a friend of mine this guy that I know who was bi. He was like, I was like,
bi.
He was telling me, I was like, so the first time I asked him, are you really bi? He's like, yeah, I'm an opportunist. Sounds good to me, man.
All right,
have a good one.
Let's get out of this topic.
Rest in peace, my
Move
friend.
on to a kinder, gentler one. This is going to be our last topic for this podcast. We'll see how long this goes on. Okay, so here's the background for those who are listening to this who have not seen it. So on the Barista Guild of America.org,
Barista Guild of America,
or I should say on the Barista Guild discussion board that's linked through scaa.org website. One of our esteemed baristas from Canada posted a question, or should I say challenge, or whatever you want to call it, basically saying that the Barista Guild discussion board needs a barista. In other words, a wage-earning barista section that is separate and apart from the rest of the board, so that mainly claiming, or and I don't disagree with this particular fact, that if you look at a lot of the people on the Barista Guild discussion board, you've got a lot of people who actually own their businesses aside from being baristas themselves. So the question, it begs the question: is this a legitimate issue? Do wage-earning baristas have issues that need to be discussed, separate and apart, segregated away from people like me, like you, Jay, that actually own our shops, and the word out there has been that there's maybe a conflict of interest.
Yes.
So this could be an interesting topic. I hope it doesn't get too ugly. So what do you think, Jay?
Well, quite frankly, considering the content of the thread, that all that's been said is there are people that are upset or unhappy with the board. There are people numbering in the double digits that are unhappy or upset with the board. There are a group of people that Jimmy knows that's upset, unhappy with the board.
A lot of upset
Jimmy,
and unhappy.
To me, that
You mean
really,
espresso obsessed?
that really doesn't say anything. Unless we can identify the problems, there can be no resolution. As far as like the executive council or the chapter representatives or even membership of the Barista Guild to even work towards resolution of a problem, that problem needs to be identified. And so far, no one's come out and identified a problem and said, this is a problem, this is a problem, or this is a problem. So how can
this.
Right, exactly.
Or this.
Yeah. So how can I or we address any problem unless it's told to us?
Right. Aaron, what do you think? Aaron is actually, we didn't mention this before.
So let me give you a little bit of background on this. So the Barista Guild of America was started in 2004, I believe it was, and the genesis of the Barista Guild was really by these guys in Seattle who had started as baristas and eventually became green buyers and whatnot, and some of them are still in the business. Andy Cronin is no longer in the business, and but these guys were working baristas, and they wanted to start something called the Barista Guild so that they could find community and foster the craft. And so they went to the Specialty Coffee Association of America, and they said, hey, they felt that they needed to be part of the SCAA. And because of my involvement with the SCAA eventually and with the community itself, myself and Nick were asked to be part of the Barista Guild Task Force. And this is back in 2004. No, I don't think Nick was part of the task force. I think Nick came to the executive council that started the year after. So the task force was myself, Andy Cronin, Davidson, I forgot his first name, my goodness, Andy Newbaum. And myself and Andy Newbaum were owners of our own companies. We were baristas, but we're also owners. And the task force, I think also Bronwyn Cerno was part of the task force, I think. The idea was for the task force was to really start the BGA, the Barista Guild of America, and get things rolling. And then a year later, we would have we would have some members, and then we would have an executive council that would be elected. Most of us that were on the task, I think all of us that were in the task force were elected as part of the executive council, which also brought in Nick Cho, and I think a couple other people. And of course, myself, Andy Newbaum, Nick, were owners of the companies. And then a lot of people that were participating in the BGA forums were also owners. Well, I don't know if a lot of them were. I mean, who were owners? I'm trying to think of who involved were owners. I mean, there was a bunch of owners that were posting. Dwayne Sorensen from Stumptown, he would post from time to time, but not very often. The owner of Intelligentsia would post from time to time. The owner of Counterculture never posted because he was more on the business side. So looking back upon it now, there's not too. There were barista owners, but there weren't. I don't think there was a lot of baristas. I don't think there's a lot of owners dominating the chat rooms. Like some other prominent voices were people like Chris Tacey, but he was not an owner. And yeah. Anyway, let's continue with the story.
Before we should have, Aaron is also the Mid-Atlantic regional representative for the Barista Guild of America.
Oh, we also had the executive council, and then there were regional representatives that were supposed to. The idea they were kind of ambassadors of baristas to go out and ideally you'd have recruitment drives to get more members. I don't know if that was really their task at the time. I think it was just to try to help build structure and presence across the country. Yeah.
So you've read through the thread.
I've read through the thread.
And any thoughts?
Well, my first thought that we were talking about earlier was I think that a lot of people are mistaking the Barista Guild of America as a trade union and really looking for it to serve the purpose of wage controls and things of a union nature, where my understanding of the guild is really a trade organization that is purely there to collectivize, if that's a word.
It's not.
I'm making it up now. But to bring together baristas in the pursuit of furthering their own knowledge and making the craft all it can be.
Yeah.
So it's a resource for baristas to go to tap the pool, tap the well, sort of thing.
Yeah.
A community, and it's not something that should be exclusive to anyone that you need to buy into somehow, although there is a membership fee. But it's there for everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
Aaron, do you think?
Yeah, the Barista Guild really was started more as Aaron was saying, an organization to foster the craft, to help people hopefully have, more learning experiences, to give their craft depth rather than labor representation and collective bargaining. That's definitely not part of the Barista Guild's sphere of influence, especially at its inception.
I mean, you're not an owner,
right?
And I'll go to you read the boards pretty often.
Yeah. I
mean, you don't post very often.
No, I don't post, but
you have posted.
I've posted before, but that's just my personality. I even in personal interactions, I'm less of a talker and more of a listener. I mean, I have opinions, but I'm kind of
working with me. I would. I don't know how it would work any other way.
Right. I sit and listen, and you talk, and I nod.
But here's a question. Billy Wilson wrote to most recently, right before we started talking about this, he posted a comment that says
he kind of took back what he said before.
Yeah, anyway. he kind of he said he read over the literature of the guild, and he says he's retracting his earlier statement about being a conflict of interest. But he also says that if I worked for company XYZ and I knew that my employer posted on this website, I might feel uncomfortable posting here. So in that respect, how do you feel about that? I mean, obviously your boss is very involved in the board, and do you actually, and he's also sitting right here too, so that might play. But what I'm saying is that do you hold back?
No.
Because of that?
No. I mean, what kind of employer am I working for? I mean, that was on the board too.
Yeah.
It's like, what sort of person you're working for that you've got all these kept up secrets that you're unwilling to express. I mean, maybe some aren't as fortunate as myself to have a relationship with a boss where I can, express concerns.
Don't talk about a relationship. That's watch it. Family show.
But for me, and why would I use the board to express personal gripes?
True.
Well,
if that's what it is.
Yeah,
that's what the question is.
Yeah, personally, I find this topic pretty interesting. Those who
interesting or infuriating.
I would say honestly a little bit of both.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that there's the part of it that's, but more actually.
I wish I could tell you what the content of this thread was, or direct you to the original thread. Unfortunately, that board for the Barista Guild is long gone. And I don't recall really the content. And I was hoping we would talk more about the actual content of the thread.
I would say more interested and more just curious. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. Those who know me know that I'm generally a big picture guy. I don't kind of get into minutia. I don't micromanage stuff. And so if there's a legitimate complaint out there, I'm willing to hear it. Now, I'm actually going to go on record as saying I'm ignoring everything that Homeless Roaster wrote on that thread. You're talking about a guy
who's not a member.
Who's not a member, but not only is he not a member, but he's made some trouble here in the Southeast. And I won't get into it too much.
He was not a member of the Barista
that,
Guild.
He thinks that it was funny to kind of go around and tell people that we were using Starbucks coffee and pretending it was counterculture coffee. Or
Well,
something.
he's definitely made some steps that were less than impressive.
Well, nonetheless,
Less than impressive.
You know, I'm not even going to talk about it. It's not even worth my time. But the thing is that, you know, I'm still waiting for someone to say, you know, to express what sort of things, you know, are being I don't know, what excluded by the nature of the current setup of the board. And this is very important for me personally because I'm actually tasked with setting up the new BaristaGuildofAmerica.org website, including the new separate discussion board that we're going to have, similar to the Roasters Guild board, where we'll have a members-only section where if you're a Barista Guild of America, you know, card-carrying member, then you plug your numbers in and, you know, you have access to a separate discussion board that's invisible, that is not viewable from, you know, by the general public. Mm-hmm. And also a public board that's similar to what we have now, where it's just a free-for-all, so people like, you know, whoever wants to post can post and join up. But if, you know, the thinking being, you know, there are a lot of discussion boards out there that are a bunch of subsections. You know, like if as baristas we could have a section, you know, a machine section and a grinder section and a coffee whole bean section and a green section and, you know, a daily kind of rant section and, you know, the naked picture section and portafilter section and all that stuff, you know. But rather than having to kind of click through like 20 different sections, like why not just have one? So that's what the Roasters Guild is doing, and they seem to like it. So, you know, wanted to follow that model. But if there's reason to have, and again, keep in mind this whole discussion is kind of not, you know, does not reflect the views of the Barista Guild itself, just individuals here, but, you know, just in the interest of kind of openness and getting it out there, you know, I'm open, you know, to what people have to say. If there is a bona fide need to have a separate section, then so be it. I would hope not. I would hope that, you know, our community is such that we can kind of share ideas and whatever and not worry about who's saying what. And
well, you know, I don't know. I mean, I have to disagree at that point, you know, when you say that if there is a calling for barista-only board, I think that's separate than the BGA. Because the BGA is chartered to serve its membership, and membership as a whole, not membership. We're not delineating membership by some sort of category.
True. No, I'm not saying.
What I'm saying is that, like, even like I said in the thread, there's nothing holding anyone back from going out and starting a separate website, starting a separate forum where they can limit and put whatever rules they want on it. You know, if the Barista Guild is about free exchange of information, sharing, then it needs to be shared with everyone, everyone that's a member.
Right.
Especially like if it's restricted, we're restricted to membership. We can't have separate categories of membership.
Well, my point is that, you know, I wouldn't want to split that off just because there's, you know, a few people who want it. But if there was an identified legitimate issue that we haven't thought of because we're not day in day out wage earning baristas, then we, you know, I think, you know, and I would kind of speak for you, but I think we would at least be open to hearing that argument. But there hasn't even been that argument
yet.
But
I'm open to hearing it. But what I'm saying is that we're also, as executive council and chapter representatives, we're also limited by the charter that governs us.
Sure.
And I think that puts us outside of the scope of what the BGA is about.
Right.
Just as much as Aaron's saying that, you know, some people think that the Barista Guild of America is about trade unionism.
Right.
And it's not. You know, some people have a hard time because, yes, it's true that there are craft unions such as the Directors Guild of America, the Screen Actors Guild, that are unions, that are doing collective bargaining, trade unionism, the whole 9 yards. But that's not what the Barista Guild is about. And for those that think that it is, there's a lot more work to be done to get anything like that to happen. You know, it's not something that simply that, oh, we'll just have those people do it. Well, no, that's not how organizing works.
Right.
You know, I spent 13 years as a member of a union.
Which union?
I still
the
remember.
IATSE.
What's that?
It's called the IATSE. It's the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees and Motion Picture Machine Operators of the United States and Canada, AFL-CIO.
You mean there's a union for porn actors?
Absolutely. Somebody has to get their collective bargaining on.
Is that what they're calling it? Not collective bargaining?
It's always been called collective bargaining.
Yeah. Well.
But I mean, so there's a lot of things to, those kind of things are outside the scope of the BGA. And I think that it's important that people understand that, especially the membership or potential members, to understand that that's not what it's about. It is about sharing education, knowledge.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the BGA itself has been a little quiet these days, as far as what's going on, and we're just so that anyone's listening. Again, this isn't a BGA podcast, but nonetheless, just for those who are listening, just to kind of, keep you in the loop. We will be coming out with a lot more stuff soon as far as where we are, what we need to be doing. All the chapter reps will be contacted very soon with a bunch of different stuff. Just to be clear, we're in the building mode. Yeah. We're in the mode right now as far as the Barista Guild is concerned. Building membership. We need to gain more members. Yes. And for those who are out there who are listening, who are thinking, oh, maybe I wanted to join, hurry up and get your membership in. Okay? Yes. And for those who are members already or will be, go out there, help recruit new people. The reason that I'm saying that is not because it's not because we need your money. We're not televangelists here. We're not like, look into your wallet and see if you got some of God's money mixed up in your own money.
What? I think
send it in.
I think that's a little bit misnomer. I mean, I think what baristas might be missing is that there is a business element to the Barista Guild of America. There is a money element. Baristas have members and non-members have told me in the past, they're like, how come this isn't happening? How come that's not happening? We want something to happen. Right. We want the SCA to do something for us. Well, you know what? Let me break it down to the serious dope now. No, really. This is something that I just had a conversation this past week. And I was told the Barista Guild of America needs to have 2,000 members and needs to have something that will generate revenue, something along the lines of the Roasters Guild Retreat. And that's when we'll start to get some serious attention, serious respect from the parent organization. So for those of you who are wondering, why aren't things happening? Well, this is why it's not happening, and this is what we need to do. We need 2,000 members, and I believe we need to drive some revenue. We need to drive revenue, and I've been told, and I don't know if this is true, in the tens of thousands. And that's how much the Roasters Guild is evidently making from the guild.
And I want to bring this something, because this is an important point. Back in that era, when I was on the task force, and it was a choice by Chris Davidson and Andy Cronin to seek SCA partnership or to be under the umbrella of the SCA. Personally, as a business owner, when I joined in, I was kind of against it. Like, I was like, can we separate the BGA from the Specialty Coffee Association? Because as we're expressing here, it's a mother may I scenario, right? You're always asking the parent organization now for everything. And because, especially during this era, the BGA was burgeoning, they were really not interested in giving us much of anything. Plus, we were also, this whole third wave that is now quite mature was brand new, was just emergent. And so this idea of baristas being like industry leaders was definitely not on a lot of people's radars. That was definitely, definitely looked down upon, definitely poo-pooed upon by a lot of the SCA leadership. And it was really a battle. It was really a battle for us to get just about anything done. And they weren't willing to open up their pocketbooks. And I was always kind of like, well, if they're not going to open their pocketbooks and support us, why are we doing this? Why are we part of the SCA? We should be separate from the SCA. And none of the rest of the guys were really in favor of removing us from the SCA. But I always saw that if you looked at the business of coffee, there's far more baristas in America and across the world than there are owners and producers and all of that. So the potential for membership was there, like it potentially thousands and thousands of dollars. And I think over time, now that they have more education programs that the SCA has developed, that cost considerable amount of money. That's now where they are. They're able to charge a lot of people a lot of money for their training programs And now the BGA has a little bit more legitimacy because now they've got a lot of members. I believe they have a lot of members. I've been out of the scene since 2007. And, it's a different world. And it just because the money is there now. But back then, it wasn't.
We talk about wanting to do programs and dictating our own terms. Well, that's what's going to take to dictate our own terms. With a larger organization, we got to talk money. We got to talk serious. We got to talk straight.
Right.
And that's really what it's about.
Well, I think in certain ways this is like a chicken, egg, cart, horse kind of issue. I think that, I was starting to say, we need to build membership now. And, it's just, it is a lot along the lines of what you just said. I mean, we can't. We want certain benefits as BGA members. We want to be able to have, like, for instance, certain discounts. We want to have certain enrichment opportunities and resources and things like that. In our organization. But to do that, we do need a certain critical mass, just like you said. I don't know if 2,000 is the number. I think
that is the number.
It is. I think we're at
that was told to be black and white.
200 something.
We're just under 250.
Okay, so
we're 10% of what we need.
Right, and so that's going to take a lot more as far as a membership drive, and so that's what we're going to kind of have to key in on as an executive council and as chapter reps as well, as far as driving membership and getting out there. I know Aaron and I and Ryan, for that matter, have been talking about, you guys getting into a car.
Road trip.
And kind of doing a tour around the whole region,
Coffee shop tour, basically.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And going to all the places, not only like around D.C., but, throughout the entire Mid-Atlantic region, kind of promoting the Barista Guild and trying to, gain members.
Right.
This is the mode that we're in, and it's something that we need to do, and work hard at. And so once that's done, at least a certain point, we don't have to. I don't think we have to get 2,000 to do anything. I mean, it's not like we're going to sit around.
No, it's not that nothing's happening. I mean,
got a lot of cool jams.
Let's look at it. We've got a lot of jams coming up that we have sponsorships for, people that are putting together, people that are very enthusiastic about it. When it comes to membership benefits, there are a number of companies that are offering discounts to our members. The membership is also enjoying the resources available to full-fledged SCAA members, as far as resource center discounts, website access. Also, what else are they offering? They're offering discounts at the conference. And you got to remember that the big difference between Barista Guild members and Roaster Guild members is Roasters Guild. If you remember the Roasters Guild, you're paying, I believe, $100 for the membership, but you're also paying the $200-300 for your company membership as well. So
right,
your membership in effective is $400 per year, where the Barista Guild is $40 per year. So we're 10% of what the Roasters Guild pays. Our membership pays 10% of what the Roasters Guild members are paying. That's why we're also charged with that's why they want to see numbers in the 2000s, because while the Roasters Guild may have 200, they want to see 2,000 because we're 10% of what they're making off of there. And I hate to say it, but really it is about, and I know a lot of the baristas are going to be upset about this, and in some ways rightfully so, but I think the important thing to realize is that this is a task that we as a community face, and unless everyone can really work together to pull membership, then it becomes a lot more difficult to make things happen within the SCAA.
Let me put a little bit different spin on that, and I totally agree. But I think you would also say it's not all about money, but it's in a way, in some form, it actually is. As far as growing an organization, not necessarily about money, but about numbers and kind of having a critical mass to accomplish stuff. But what I will say is that is the case as far as driving a organization to kind of almost like make things happen on its own. Okay. Right now, individual members and chapter reps can do a lot without having this critical mass.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
As far as indie jams, as far as attending jams themselves, as far as being active on the Barista Guild, discussion board.
Absolutely.
As far as being able to, again, recruit out there, all those things. If you have any questions and you're like, I want to do stuff, but I don't know what to do, like send, one of the executive council members an email. I know that you guys should have access to all our email addresses. If not, post something to the board. But
Or email us at podcast@portafilter.net.
Well, I want to keep those things separate.
Well, we'll point you in the right direction.
Yes, we'll point you in the right direction.
No, you're right, because while we've talked a lot about money, and it sounds kind of bleak and kind of disheartening, I think that membership needs to remember that that's one side of it. But the other side that you're talking about, Nick, is definitely true. There's a lot of excitement amongst sponsoring companies, amongst individuals, about people that are controlling sponsorship dollars for the BGA.
Sure.
To do the event.
You're back in money.
I know, but unfortunately, everything. Maybe it's just because I have the owner's perspective, but everything really does revolve around the dollar, and the only way to put things on is through that dollar.
Yeah.
So, but right now, companies like Monin, Sterling, Carry Foods, Ambex, Counterculture, Astoria, La Marzocco, these are all companies that have the ability and wherewithal to support the BGA and its membership, and they're very excited about doing that. So I think that's really the other side, is that we can still put on events, we can still put on a great show at the conference, while still not having that quote-unquote critical mass of membership yet. So it's not something to be discouraged about, but it's something that these are the goals that we need to attain over the next couple of years.
Sure. It's going to take a lot of work.
Absolutely.
I don't think that the people who are the existing executive council get enough credit, for Andy Cronin and Sandy Hahn, Bronwyn, Ellie, you. Did I forget somebody? Andy Newbaum. Been working very hard these past few months, behind the scenes. We've had twice monthly conference calls, a lot of volunteer time just being donated out there in the interest of getting things together. And, I would ask for a little bit more patience from folks. Not that there's like an outcry right now, but, I understand, I'm impatient a little bit. I want to see the Barista Guild be out there a little bit more, kind of being able to be a little bit more clear about where we're at, what we're doing, stuff like that. But that does take a lot of behind-the-scenes work to get all that stuff together. So bear with us a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, but
bear with us. So that because of this, speaking of which, so Ibrahim Kiganda has a question here that has, what's going on, man? How you doing? Glad you're watching. Thank you for tuning in. So ask, what does it take to start up a Barista Guild in a country? Okay, so here's the thing. So the Barista Guild of America started in 2004. We started that in 2004, and it has continued on and continues on today as the Barista Guild, which can be found at baristaguild.coffee online. And that's now part of the Specialty Coffee Association, and the Barista Guild is a worldwide organization now instead of just being part of the United States. Now, what does it mean? I'm looking here at the website for it, and benefits. They have training, they have community, they have events. Honestly, I don't know how they're able to work on a worldwide level. Young Ma, good to see you, man. Thanks for tuning in. And so I think the question is, as far as a guild, the Barista Guild, to start in your own country, like, should you join the worldwide organization? Is there an advantage to you for doing that? I don't know. I don't know if there's an advantage to joining. Like, they have 20% off online purchases at the SCA store. You receive a complimentary subscription to the 25 magazine. You get newsletter with special offers and updates. There are exclusive discounts to events. You can get discounts to the SCA Expo and World of Coffee. I don't know if those are important to you, or the question is, are you looking for more community amongst the baristas in your country, or more training amongst the baristas in your country? And in those cases, maybe the way to go is, I don't know if the worldwide organization will serve your needs very well. Perhaps you should be looking to do something on a more local scale. So if you want to start your own, really, it's just, I think, a matter of talking to other baristas, getting them to be aware of the idea of a guild or organization. And what you want to do is, if you want to start a guild, like, what are the benefits that your guild can offer members? That's something to really think about. Like, is it just discounts on? Maybe you get cafes to give people discounts for when they visit. Maybe you can get training sessions built. You know, maybe go to some of the trainers in your country. Would they be willing to do a seminar or something like that? And so really you want to try to find benefits for members to join, and what can they give? What can you as an organization give to the members? Can one join the Barista Guild Council from another country for stance? Yes, absolutely. So right now, if we look, I wish I could put overlays on our system right now. I don't really have the capability with the software that I'm using to send this out. But basically, if you go to baristaguild.coffee, you will see that on their main page, they have some blog entries, and basically they have, you know, presenting the slate for the 2022 Barista Guild Leadership Council election. You've got people from Zoe Thorson, who's from the United States, Lucas Galecki, who's from Poland, Renato Sumania, who's from the Philippines, Salman Ilyas Khan from South Africa, Miroslava Oceanas from the United Kingdom, Olivia Morris from the United States, and Luisa Fernanda Santos Rivera from Colombia. So they've got people that are participating from all over the world. So you can get involved. I haven't been involved with a lot of the politics of the Specialty Coffee Association for quite a long time. So I don't know exactly what happens in the machinations, but I suggest, you know, looking here, baristaguild.coffee, having a look at what they're doing now and how you can get involved in the different events they're having. Like, let's see here. They don't really have anything too planned out. You know, as with most things, they've got Rico scheduled, Specialty Coffee Expo scheduled, stuff that just costs a lot of money. And typical SCA fashion, everything just costs so much money. That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother conversation. All right, let's go back to our
in some
our
levels,
podcast.
If you're a member, you don't really care about that. So what?
Yeah.
They want to see it happen.
Yeah.
And I can totally understand that and agree with that. But like you're saying, Nick, I think that a lot of people don't really realize, and I think that's even within our own council initially, is that when you're working with an organization, whether it's the BGA or the larger SCAA, what we want to do and what we're able to do may be two very different things. For example, you know, what we'd like to do is to make X happen. But in order to get X happen, it may take Y in length. You know? So it takes a long time because we've got to work within such a large organization with so many other people's desires to meet. So I think you're right. Patience is what we need. So hopefully we can get that done.
Yeah. For everyone, look forward to seeing some good stuff coming from the BGA. But at the same time, like you said, you know, money is very important, and there is that component to it.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, and I think that's part of what the Executive Council has been really tasked with, is working hard on all those things.
But we do have a lot of exciting things coming in the next year.
Yeah.
A lot of exciting things.
Yeah. So look forward to all that, and we'll continue this discussion.
Yeah.
None of these things are you know, closed in any way. You know, send us an email. You know, post to the portafilter.net website. There are a lot more issues, especially related to the BGA and all the things that we've talked about, and hopefully we'll get to some of those. And hopefully, in future podcasts, we'll hear from some more folks, some more baristas, and so on and so forth.
Yes.
But so there we go.
Nice.
Thanks again, Jay. Thanks, Aaron.
Party on.
Party on. And thanks again to Mark Prince and all that you do for coffee and over at Coffee Geek. And for my esteemed colleague, Jay Caragay, and our guest here, Aaron Ultimo.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
You're very welcome.
Anything left to say, Jay, before we sign off?
I have one more thing to say. I do have one more thing to say. I'm sorry.
Oh, shit.
I have something to continue. I have to say that,
He's opening up the Barista magazine.
It started a couple of years ago when I was looking through Fresh Cup. Remember I told you about this story?
Which one?
And I saw the Roasters Guild report, and there was a nice picture of Trish.
Uh-oh.
Yes. Well, here we are, page 60 of Barista Guild magazine, another wonderful picture of Trish. That's actually sitting on my wall in a frame now. It's beautiful.
Did you blow it up?
But the
It was
question,
never on the wall.
the question is, what is the current role of the barista in the specialty coffee industry?
What does Trish say?
Trish says, I'm a roaster, and roasters can really learn a lot from baristas about how their coffee performs. That is invaluable information for a roaster. That kind of day-to-day coffee performance is what a trained barista can give you that no one else can. If I could do anything, I'd shake up the prevailing hierarchy so that the barista was more respected for the role they play, and the roaster would really listen to the barista so the coffee will always improve.
Amen to that.
Amen.
Amen
So
to that,
message
too.
for Trish there in response, Jay.
Right on, Trish. Right on.
Right on.
With that, we'll sign off. Podcast number 5 for Monday, this beautiful Monday, June 27th. And for all of us here in this room, mahalo.
All right, so that's pretty much it for the Portfolio podcast from June 27th, 2005. So if you like that, let me know what you think in the comments down below after if you're watching the replay. But for this, we had a couple comments, a couple questions. Youngma's asking, have you ever regretted a decision as a judge? That's a good one. The short answer is no. As a judge, I don't. What I always kind of find difficult is watching competitors make mistakes that they could have, like solved without penalty, But have I regretted any decisions? I have not. Like there are a lot of times we may make, sometimes judges, myself included, may make a bad call on something. But for the most part, it's relatively straightforward because of the way that we approach judging and the way we train people to approach judging is to be the person that's recording what they've experienced. So as long as you're recording what you've experienced, then you can't. I don't think there's anything to be worried too much about. Like for example, you want to have the ability so you can accurately assess the drink that's presented to you, so you can taste it, evaluate it, and hopefully do it right. But do I have any regrets? No, I have not had anything like that. And Ibrahim Kiganda asks, can a competitor use the preparation table of the national setup without changing the table setup? 2 occupying main judges table and 2 occupying preparation table. Is it allowed? That's really something that's going to depend on your national championship. For example, if those of you who may be watching may be wondering what we're talking about, at the World Barista Championship, you as a competitor can choose one of 9 different configurations for your setup. And typically there's an espresso machine table, there's a work table, and there's a present table where judges will sit. They can be split up in many different combinations, or 9 different combinations. At a national championships, they tend to only do one setup. And I, as a World Coffee Events representative, I encourage all national competitions to only do one setup. Even at the United States Barista Championship that has a very large group of people working on it, they only have one setup, at least at the qualifying rounds that are happening next coming weekend. And it's just an undue burden on most national championships because most national championships don't have a tremendous amount of resources. And since, Ibrahim, you're talking about Uganda. Uganda is a country I know very well, and it's not so. They don't have a lot of that resource that you would need, like personnel-wise, and just logistics speaking. It's very difficult to do that. So, can a competitor use the preparation on the national setup without changing? You cannot change the table setup, so you'll have to use it as it comes to you. 2 occupying main judges table, and 2 occupying. You mean having 2 people sitting at the judges table and 2 sitting at the preparation table? I think that could be allowed. I think that could, but that's something that the national body would determine, or the rep. Yama asked, do you find money and barista skills correlate? I don't know if I find money and barista skills to be correlated, but I don't think anyone can truly deny that money and winning the championship are very related. it's not. Money is a big component of that, right? Because if you watch the championships, you'll see a lot of the winners. They're having, they buy very expensive coffees. They're hiring very expensive trainers to come fly from wherever they are in the world to their location and train with them for weeks at a time, and then bring them out. They're going to be at the competition, so they fly them out there as well, and they've got the time there, and so barista competitors who are representing companies that are well financed tend to have the greater advantage. I don't think there's any way around that, and I see that worldwide. Because I have in my role as a rep, I get to oversee different national championships all around the world, and it's difficult to say, but it is possible. Don't get me wrong, it is possible for you to be not sponsored by a big money company, not to have big money behind you. You can win. That is a very real possibility. But most of the time, the winners are well financed. They've got a lot of resources, whether it's equipment, training time to dedicate to them. Because if you're like most competitors, you're a working barista. You're working, and you're a barista. You're not the highest paid person in the totem pole at your company, right? So you've got to find, if you're dedicated, you got to find time of yourself to buy coffee, to find training, to practice, to do all of these things, and then to understand the rules. Most baristas will come to the competition because they're workaday baristas, and they haven't had the time. They haven't taken the time to learn everything, but probably because they haven't had the time. They got to pay their bills, So it's really hard to separate that. Can a person that's not well financed win the championship? Yes, it is possible. I don't think it's common. All right, let's see here. Are you going to be live for your qualifiers championship? Yes, I am planning on being live. So that's going to... I don't know if they're going to allow this. I'm not really going to ask them either. I'm just planning on doing this. I'm going to take the camera, probably my phone, probably transmit from the phone. I'm just going to set it on the table somewhere on the station so that whoever's watching can see up close what we're doing. And, I am planning to do it live. It's going to be Sunday. My performance time is Sunday after 1 p.m. So right now I'm scheduled to do the setup time at 1 p.m. on Sunday. That's Eastern time here in the United States. But when that will actually happen could be, it depends on how well their schedule is being run that day. If they fall behind, could be 2, 3, 4 in the afternoon. But scheduled time is 1 p.m. Eastern. And I am planning on live streaming it. So if you could watch, that'd be awesome. It'll be here on the Ono Coffee channel. So, yeah. And Youngma asked that he retracted it, but he was asking about props that were not so nice. I don't know. There's over the years, I've seen lots of different props used in the competition. Sometimes they make sense. Sometimes they don't. If you're going to use props, you really have to look at, does it really help you deliver something of value to the judges? Because really, it's all about serving the judges, right? Because they're the ones giving you the score. So you want to give them the most value. Now, if you watch there's a video out there with Anthony Douglas, who's the current world barista champion. There's a video that he's in, that his finals performance. So this is the performance that he used to win the championship. We were just watching it last week. And, he's got all these props. He's got all kinds of stuff built on the station. And my first initial reaction was God, that's a lot. That's just too much. But, it does make sense. And it does, he does handle his presentation in a way that flows very well. And I think was really, really great. If you watch it, one of the things that I really liked about, Anthony Douglas's performance was the time that he took to deliver his information. He would give the judges information and allow them time to write. Because a big part of judging is not just listening and experiencing the drinks and what the competitor is presenting to us, but we also have to have the time to record that. And sometimes baristas are so focused on giving all the information they possibly can that there's no time to write. Because, we want to maintain eye contact with you, right? If you're the competitor, we want to maintain eye contact and listen attentively to what you have to say. And we're listening, and there is a way to write a little bit while you're writing. So super pertinent information we may jot down, but it's difficult to write all the details and the important details if you constantly talk to us, right? So, but if you really, one of the nice things with Anthony is that he's just got great timing, great presentation, great pacing. The pace is great. And then he even directs the judges. You'll notice that if you watch it, he talks about, and let me take you back to the signature drink. It's oh, okay, good. Now we're being directed. Now it's helping us to understand where we're going. Because sometimes you sit there and you wonder, here's this barista. He's doing something, but we don't know what he's doing it for. Is he going to serve those shots to us, or are you going to just put on the side? So those are some of the things you want to think about. All right. I guess that's it for today. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you're interested, I am working on a live stream maybe tomorrow that is going to be about signature drinks and this. I did one before about signature drinks. It's basic signature drinks and how it fits in with the scoring. This time it's going to be, I'm going to be showing you pretty much the drink that I'm thinking about using in competition next week. It's an idea that I've been working on for quite a while. And I think it's kind of close to where we're going to be. So that will probably be tomorrow or Friday. One of those two. I'm not really sure. Sorry, I don't have a way to tell you that. But otherwise, tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, we always do our Thursday night hang with our coffee and cigars. So if you got time to hang out with coffee and cigars, come join us. Youngma, we missed you. Haven't seen you in a couple weeks. And if you want to join us, come and join us. We'd love to have you. And, of course, we got some new videos coming out. The video coming out on Saturday is a new series, a return to one of our series, the Coffee Wonderland series. And that's really about visiting different coffee people and seeing what they're doing at home. And usually their home setups are pretty crazy. The last time we were at Greg Skase's place, and he's got a plethora of machines. And this time we're visiting the Franken machine, which is a buddy of mine here in Baltimore has a machine that he's been building himself. And it's quite. I think it'll be quite interesting. All right. So, thank you very much for tuning in. Ibrahim, Youngma, thank you for both tuning in. It's great to see all of you guys. And for those of you watching, thanks for watching. And come check us out next time. This series about the portafilter.net podcast, we're reliving the old 2005 episodes. So, seeing what's changed over the last 15 years in the industry, what's changed, what's stayed the same. So, we'll have some more episodes of that. I'm trying to figure out if we really should continue the PF series as a live stream or as pre-recorded videos. If you have any thoughts on it, which way you like it, let me know. The first two episodes, 1 and 2, were done as pre-recorded, and the last 2, 3, and 4, this one, were done live. So let me know what you think, and all right. Great to see you. Thank you for tuning in, and